This week, the CDC Independent Advisory Board unanimously voted to put the COVID-19 mRNA jabs on the 2023 vaccine schedule, despite a massive public outcry to not include them. The board responded by saying just because they're added to the schedule doesn't mean it will be required for students to attend school. So why recommend? One thing this CNN Health article doesn't include is the rationale for including this brand new vax, which seems like a pretty important subject to cover. Thomas Massey points this out. Here's a slide from the CDC meeting today on childhood vaccines. Children 5 to 17 aren't even measurable on this graph, so why would CDC recommend COVID jabs be part of the childhood vaccine schedule? By the way, this is people in the hospital testing COVID positive, not due to COVID. Some are suggesting the motivation is the liability protection the recommendation provides. If jab makers can get approval and recommendation for children, there is permanent zero liability under the legal shield of the National VICP of 1988.
So we called the CDC and asked a simple question. Do you deny that once the COVID vaccine is added to the childhood immunization schedule, many schools and states will require it based on your recommendation? And of course, they know that's true. We caught them lying, so they didn't even bother to respond to us because apparently we're not American citizens and don't deserve a response. Does not enhance your faith at all.
We're all still experiencing the fallout of other rush decisions, supposedly in the name of health and science, and the corporate-controlled media has gaslit us every step of the way. Here's Bill Maher.
The pandemic erased 2 decades of progress in math and reading. See, right away, I got to say, this pisses me off. I see these headlines all the time. The pandemic didn't do that. The way we handled the pandemic did that. The pandemic certainly was a thing. But let's not just say the pandemic, because it was not written in stone that we had to handle it the way we did. They shouted down the idea that it might have escaped from a lab.
Right.
That was somehow racist,
right,
as opposed to somehow if you believed that it came from the wet markets, you were a Democrat, and if you believed it came from a lab, you were a Republican. This is ridiculous.
The propaganda machine has been fueled by a lack of true sources. Media is given a corporate directive, and the puppets assemble to gather experts to source for their predetermined narrative. Front Page Mag. Is rainbow fentanyl a threat to your kids this Halloween? Experts say no, NPR assures. Fetterman's use of captions is common in stroke recovery, experts say. The Washington Post wheedles. The media is notorious for sticking experts say in any story, no matter how irrelevant. Where are the experts at to explain this claim?
Yes, our economy is strong as hell.
89% of voters do not think the economy is strong, but rather believe we're in a recession. And that includes 84% of voters who approve of Biden's job performance. So Biden says the economy is strong, and he also had this to say.
Let's debunk some myths here. My administration has not stopped or slowed U.S. oil production.
Where are the fact checkers on this? Media Research Center. Fact check. Joe Biden canceled the Keystone XL pipeline on his first day in office. Here's a couple of other headlines. Federal oil leases slow to a trickle under Biden. Biden halts oil, gas leases amid legal fight on climate cost. Now, when the media is selectively fact-checking or can't find a thinly veiled expert, they bring on laughable contributors, like Russia hoax pusher Peter Strzok. Despite this excerpt from his FBI termination letter. As I considered all the known facts associated with the adjudication of your case, it was difficult to imagine another incident like yours which brought so much discredit to the organization. So MSNBC decided he'd be perfect to interview. And here's how that went.
I've not heard one utterance of connecting the dots from Christopher Wray in the days after the deadliest attack on the U.S. Capitol in our, in history.
Nicole, I think that's right. And I think if you look at the scale in terms of the threat to democracy, I mean, 9/11 was a tragedy. We lost thousands of lives in a horrific way that we still mourn to this day. But when you look at something that is an attack on democracy, something that could actually bring about a fundamental change to American governance as we understand it, 9/11 is nothing compared to January 6th.
Wow, what a slap in the face to the thousands of families who lost loved ones on 9/11. And that day did fundamentally change all of our lives with the rushed passage of the Patriot Act, making it easier for the government to spy on ordinary Americans. among other things. Speaking of MSDNC, it and CNN are making no apologies for not covering the Hunter Biden laptop, which some argue was actually a threat to our democracy because it buried relevant information just before a major election. The defense? He was never arrested and not a candidate himself. So if the laptop had been Don Jr.'s, would they have turned a blind eye? The computer store owner where Hunter left his laptop is now suing CNN, Hunter, the Biden campaign, and others for alleged claims of defamation, civil conspiracy, and civil aiding and abetting. It was not Russian disinformation as they had claimed. The lawsuit follows the concession by several legacy media outlets of the authenticity of the laptop. Also holding the propaganda puppets accountable is Carrie Lake, and the elitist talking heads hate her for it. CNN's Jake Tapper tweets, gubernatorial nominee pledging to only accept election results if she wins. Except that's not what she said. Take a listen.
The question is, will you accept the results of your election in November?
I'm going to win the election and I will accept that result.
If you lose, will you accept that?
I'm going to win the election and I will accept that result because the people of Arizona will never support and vote for a coward like Katie Hobbs who won't show up on a debate stage. She's single-handedly destroying a 20-year tradition of gubernatorial debates because of her cowardice. So I know already no momentum behind her. The polls are in our favor, and we're going to win this election. I'm 100% confident of that.
So he embellishes what Lake said, but ignores that Stacey Abrams actually did not accept her loss. NPR, Abrams lost by nearly 55,000 votes and never did concede. Lake has been calling out the corrupt corporate media for these reporting inconsistencies.
Let's talk about election deniers. Here's 150 examples of Democrats denying election results. Oh, wow, look at this. This is from Joe Biden's press secretary. Reminder, Brian Kemp stole the gubernatorial election from Georgians and Stacey Abrams. Democrats saying that. Is that an election denier? Oh, look at this. Just heard Republican Ryan Costello said it would be difficult for Stacey Abrams to win because she lost her state bid, but yet she's still claiming she never lost. This is outright. Hillary Clinton. Trump is an illegitimate president. Is she an election denier? This one says, was the 2016 election legitimate? It now definitely is a question worth asking. That's the Los Angeles Times. So it's okay for Democrats to question elections, but it's not okay for Republicans. It's a crock of BS. Every one of you knows it. We have our freedom of speech, and we're not going to relinquish it to a bunch of fake news propagandists.
And roasting them while she's at it.
You don't have a mask on anymore. What's going
we're
on?
Outside. Do you have a minute to
well,
chat?
we're 6 feet apart.
Do you have a minute to chat?
I'll do an interview.
Okay.
As long as it airs on CNN+. Does that still exist? I didn't think so, because the people don't like what you guys are peddling, which is propaganda. Thank you.
Bringing you what's ignored, sensationalized, misleading, or just plain false. That's your Media Malfeasance for the week. Follow Christy Lee TV on all your favorite social media platforms or join my community. Subscribe to ChristyLeeTV.locals.com.